Hey, this is Jon Croft with Cultural Warfare with Jon Croft, and I am Jon Croft. How's everybody doing? And we have Rebecca here tonight. How are you, Rebecca?
Hi, I'm doing good. How are you?
Great. Have you enjoyed our topics over at Meeting Moses Weekly?
I loved it. I'm excited to see what Sight and Sound does with C.S. Lewis's content and what their film turns out to be. So I think it's going to be awesome.
Yes, that's actually Fellowship of Performing Arts, who does
Okay, gotcha.
C.S. Lewis. Sight and Sound is doing
The Great
yes,
Awakening.
yes, Sight and Sound is doing a Great Awakening,
Nice.
historical kind of biopic, sort
Yeah,
of.
I'm looking forward to those.
Yeah, absolutely. And St. George.
That looks so good.
It looks amazing.
I
Yeah.
feel like this just came out of nowhere. Like it looks so good.
Yeah, when I found it on X too, I was like, oh wow, I can tell this is going to be good. And that was before I saw this stuff. He just had a
Yeah,
few small examples of his work, and I was like, I bet this is going to be great.
yeah.
So, because he has that kind of unashamed Christian mythology going on there.
Hmm.
Totally powerful stuff. Totally drawing from the original myth of St. George and the Dragon.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
it looks so good.
So we have our main topic tonight, which is Wyldwood. Is it really all that wild? So what brought me to this title was somebody shared a video and it had mentioned him. And I went to his page and I saw that Zach Levi on the Wildwood had did an update. They've actually got a video on their site now, but I can show you the site. And so I wanted to kind of react to what he's doing here with the site. So here's wildwoodaustin.com. So they've got a lot of stuff here. Master planned riverfront development in Bastrop, Texas. Building a future where aesthetics meets purpose. Um, Showing some of the structures he wants to build. Amphitheater, sound stages, residential, um, 42 cabins. Join the vision. So I wanted to react to this site as it's been built so far. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. There's also the video. Let's watch his video, which is just to give you a little preview. He's spoken like this before. He's already said much of this in many of his other podcast interviews he's done. So what he's going to say here isn't going to be a shock to many of you. I've talked about this before on another podcast episode. But now there's new developments, right? So you can see the page and we're going to see his vision.
Hey, everybody, it's Zach. Thank you for your interest in Wyldwood. This has been a passion of mine really my whole life, but acutely the last 25 years since I've been working in Hollywood. But I wanted to take a moment to give you a little more context on the why. Why is it that I have felt this calling, this passion for building something like Wyldwood? And so to do that, I'm going to take you back to childhood. That is when I just had things revealed to me. I can't explain why. It wasn't a cerebral knowing, it was a knowing in my soul.
Okay, so
And
I am going
some
to
of those
pause it
things
really
that I
quick if I
believe.
can. He's going to tell us how, as a child, he from the beginning knew that he had to do something like this project. And then he saw how the sausage was made, as he calls it in Hollywood. And this kind of depressed him and annoyed him. And so this really pointed him in that direction once again. He had to really do something. And Wildwood is what has resulted from that. So I'm going to go a little bit past some of this as well if I can. So now I can go forward.
We already know. Creating a lot of entertainment that's just simply not entertaining. Or if it is
Right.
entertaining, containing a lot of messaging that is really not healthy. It's not good. It's not uplifting. It is very divisive. It's full of agenda that most people simply don't want and they're not looking for. And so we must create the alternative. We must create a place that is valuing the excellence of entertainment and that is valuing the artists who are making that entertainment. Ultimately, what that culminates in is not just building a better place for people to work. It also means that you got to give people better lives. You got to give them better health and wellness and education for them and their children. And so that set me off on this trajectory of, okay, all right, how do you design that? How do you build that? And ultimately that brought me to the great state of Texas. And so I set out looking for land.
So I don't want to show the whole video, but he gives the basic elements there of what he's trying to do. He wants a better life for filmmakers and the filmmakers that are working with him. So I will go to my article now because there's some stuff I say in the article that a lot of people are not going to understand my feelings on this until you read my article, because my take on this is a little different, because what I'm seeing is that he's starting this new business. You saw the site, I saw the site. The site is showing something. I'll read this to you. Zachary Levi has gone into a slew of podcast interviews with the necessary message to inform people on his upcoming plans for reforming Hollywood. It's called Wyldwood Studios. Here's his first video website, which I show there. But what are they doing there in Texas? Unknown. Well, what are film studios supposed to be doing? Making films for sure. But this studio appears to be looking for investors. And that's what the site shows, is that he's looking for investors, right? Take a look. Development, buildings, join the vision. We're building all these great things. Join us on building these great things. So how is he going to build these things? He's looking for investors, right? Like a development, it's a development. So this studio appears to be looking for investors, not making films. Of course, some might disagree with my reasoning here. They may say, you can't start a business from scratch. You got to get investors. So I'll explain to you. This is the situation we find ourselves in, where there are growing pains. You say you must support a brick and mortar and product development and maintenance and product storage and shipping and distribution and promotion and marketing, etc. It never stops into oblivion. But there is the most essential part of this long list that must never be neglected. A new business makes a product that makes me want to buy it. And to be clear, the consistent quality of that product and the effectiveness of that staff and leadership are what makes me want to invest. So I'm kind of calling this a cart before horse problem here. The cart before horse thinking of get investors first is a modern invention, which can be compared to a franchise or a debt prison such as college that must be broken out of. This is all a sort of modern invention to force mortgages and make companies vulnerable to outside control. But in this case with Levi, I believe he is going this route because he can get investors based upon his personality and his expertise as an actor, his past record in Hollywood. Because why not? But I understand that because I am not the kind that falls for these things, the kind who would get investors first, I recognize that he is reducing his risk. But lower your risk and you often lower your reward. People see you hedging your bets. Is that how great storytelling is made? No. It's how Hollywood has been making films for 50 years. It's the same mentality that has produced bad culture. Uninspired stuff comes from that. Built-in audiences, retreads, sequels, and borrowed inspiration. Instead, what must we do? You must go all in. This inspires people to step alongside you into allyship. right? I'm not saying that Levi is uninspired or doing something wrong, not whatsoever. I do not have enough information to say that, but I can say that based upon what I see, it is not the best way to start. You may be making films already, but not telling us, sure, you might be doing that. It's just that I would not be asking for investment dollars before I put my best foot forward. Most who start businesses could never dream of getting investors before making a product. Why should Zachary Levi be any different? The truth is, we know why Zachary Levi is going the investment route first. He's doing it because he's Zachary Levi. And that means he's doing it because he can. This does not inspire people like me, though, who are creators and small grassroots people. Okay, so now you might be asking, if you wouldn't go this route, what would you do? Good question. Thanks for asking. Here we go. I would purchase the best low budget indie film script possible. I would scrape together $250,000 and shoot it in and around Austin, Texas, not at the studio. Make your mark on the community first. Get a great indie film screenwriter, director, producer, some new, fresh, talented actors that can all work in the $250,000 to $500,000 range of indie filmmaking. All that money must be on the screen and be using talented people who get the vision. That's just the film, step one. But before you even do that, understand that this film on a marketing level is about making films. It's about your studio making films. So let's do the real step one. One, set up the behind the scenes making of before you even greenlight the film. Then you are ready on a systematic level every day of filmmaking to promote the heck out of what your studio is doing right now. That doc style episodic can be as cheap as $20,000. But understand that you are building a video crew to follow you around and talk about your studio's vision. If this is the right doc filmmaker, you may hire him as a studio employee later, full time, because this is just the beginning of his work. Step two, after you shoot the film and the BTS about what the studio is doing, next step is three, the red carpet in Austin, where you invite all your new local friends to be part of the release of this film. Do interviews, talk about the meaning of the film. All of this can be done in-house. You don't need Hollywood to do any of that. You don't need investors to do any of that, right? This is all done in-house. This event and this work on the way up to this event is a microcosm. It represents a microcosm of what Hollywood really is. The glitz and glamour of Hollywood was never really a bad thing, right? It's the fun and the community building of the whole thing. It represents that very real, authentic filmmaking lifestyle. Sure, most filmmakers never really get this, the way the media presents it, but this depiction is still a necessary part. Then, after this example, this little victory of filmmaking and community building is finished and indulged in a bit. Step four, investors will know what they are investing in. A real studio that makes real films, not just a fun vision or a vague lifestyle of Texas life with film thrown in there somewhere as a nice thought. You see how much more risky that is, and yet how much more authentic that is? You have to actually make a good film, a film that reflects your values, not Hollywood values, and you have to build community around it. That is Hollywood. If a person cannot facilitate that happening, it is not a complete vision, just a nice idea. So, you know, I can understand people saying, Jon, he's made films, right? No, he didn't make films. He's an actor. Okay, understand how films are made. He has a vision for a studio, a place to meet, right? A place to build and meet something. But that's not how films are made. Films are made with screenplays, screenwriting, someone with an idea, and he's got the talent and the skill and the discipline to write screenplays, mini screenplays, right? Your first screenplay is usually junk. You got to write mini screenplays. You got to get a real screenwriter, right? And like I mentioned before, an indie screenwriter to make you a great film. Buy that screenplay. That's a good indie film, right? You might need an indie film producer to help you do that, make that decision. Because Zach Levi might not be used to distinguishing what an indie film script looks like compared to a Hollywood film. These are different things. You got to break it all down. So I'm not, please don't misunderstand. I'm not saying that Zachary Levi is ignorant about filmmaking. Okay. But just because he's not ignorant of filmmaking doesn't mean he hasn't made his own film as a producer and a director and a writer and all of these things. Okay. Making a studio requires so many people to do all this. So I would start by at least making a film that's your film. You're in charge of it, right? You're the big cheese. And this film does, as I stated, it's about making films. It's about your studio making films, right? So it's your studio's branding. It's on this film. You're putting it out there and saying, my studio is about this kind of film. You have to do that, right? So this is why I say all this stuff. So I'll talk more. I'll do more reading here. And by the way, honey, do you have any thoughts so far?
Yeah, I like his vision. And I think it's significant to say that um it seems like having a studio is only like a small part of his vision. It's also um having a place where people live. Like it's also having, what did you say, cabins? Like there's going to be places where people can live
Right.
on site. Um,
Yeah.
and then there was also an emphasis on creators being respected
Right.
and AI being not
Yes,
used.
there is an emphasis on AI. That's true.
Um, and so it could just be that, he's feeling like the films will come later after the facility is built and people are moved in. Then the creatives will just get together and films will just happen. Like it could be kind of like that's where he's coming from.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you actually.
Yeah,
I
like
think you're right.
maybe he's wanting support more for the for the land, for the structure, for the dream. Um, but yeah, I mean, having a movie would help, but um, but I think his emphasis is elsewhere.
It's true that there's nothing wrong with him having that particular goal as a goal, right? That to
Yes.
focus on the place, right? Focus on a good place for people to come together and make good films. And it's not that his theory is completely incorrect, right? That would be a good thing to do, right? It would be good to have a good place to make films. I think I will continue reading this though because I address some of these things, and I will get to that in just a second. So much of your thoughts here are addressed here. So
Cool.
I'm going to do a little more explaining here on why I think his angle here was not the best angle.
Okay.
Okay, so again, I say I think you need to basically put your money where your mouth is, make a film. And so here I'll continue reading. As it is now, the dilemma is I don't know if they're open for business or not. What indicators will tell me when the vision has come about? When all their buildings are built? But companies aren't made up of buildings. They are made up of talented people who fully believe in making good products. And those good people show up when you work to make that good product. It's how the dot-com boom happened. It's how any new revolutionary business grows. Yes, it is great ideas, but then it is a new product that comes from that idea. And the choice people who can make that product happen. The building is just about the last important thing to decide, and it can change anytime later. I think his vision is great. It doesn't seem to indicate that all they are concerned with is getting a property up and running. But then you go to their site, and that appears to be the number one concern there. Maybe this is because it really is his primary concern, as you were saying. Maybe it really is about housing or hosting other talented filmmakers that have nothing to do with a vision to make good films or better films than Hollywood. And that is an even more disturbing vision than a botched kickstart for his business. That indicates to me that he actually cannot make anything better than Hollywood, only provide better food and massage parlor on site. He can only try to attract better people at that rate. And how will he attract these better people? What are better people? By what standard can he sort them out? Can you see the cart before the horse problem here? Zachary Levi appears to have a great vision for a community that cares about having a good life. But this has nothing to do with making better storytelling or better entertainment than Hollywood, which is actually what Hollywood got wrong. Just like many who seek to do something but don't really know what to do, Zach needs to team up with excellent creators, in this case, directors, writers, producers, to provide a better vision for making storytelling that exposes the failures of Hollywood by revealing what people truly need in our society to have a better life. We don't need better places. We don't just need to escape LA County. We need purpose and meaning. This is found in Western civilizational values, true culture building art of all kinds, and discussions about that art, Christian work ethic, financial independence, and yet loyalty to an interconnected community that upholds strong values, strong relationships built upon common values that are true. This literally rebuilds communities around real culture. And no, this is not easy, but it's certainly possible, and it's a pivot worth making if you are Zachary Levi. So here's the primary concern that I have, that it's not about getting a better place. It's not about your sense of place. It's not about the fact that they don't have good enough massage parlors in LA. It's because of the lack of storytelling in LA, the lack of good, meaningful, valuable storytelling in LA. And it's true, it might take a new place with new people to do that. But that's why we need to see an example from him, a kind of branding for Wyldwood Studios that's found in a calling card film that says, this is the kind of film we want to see. This represents a better Hollywood, right? Because Hollywood isn't just about a place, it's about stories. It's about this skill of storytelling. And that's really where Hollywood went wrong. Their storytelling is weak and propagandistic. It's political and nonsensical. It's not even historically accurate for the sake of their own propaganda and politics. It's disturbingly dark and almost evil at times. Quite often it actually is evil. And yet barely no good stories. And I mean morally upright with good values for families it virtually doesn't exist in Hollywood. Considering the amount of content they make in Hollywood, that is utterly disturbing and disgusting. They literally cannot allow a good filmmaker to make good films in Hollywood. They have gotten rid of, excised, eliminated, jettisoned all the great people that have good values in Hollywood. And this is why Zachary Levi is in Texas. Okay. This to me is why he's there, why he should be there. He should be there. It's good that he's there. I just believe that he needs to focus in on the things that matter most. What's going to make him different from Hollywood? It isn't a nice studio that has like organic farming on site. That's not, sadly, that's not enough to change the quality of this storytelling. It's not going to do it. They need to understand, they need to have Western civilizational culture building values. And that's going to take good, great writers, directors, and producers. Producers got to believe in it, right? To support all of it. Directors got to get the vision for that, to bring that story to life. And the writer has to originate this incredible story that's going to change hearts, change minds. You need incredible writers. If anything, one of the greatest things you can do in this Wyldwood is to incentivize writers almost more than anybody to write the right kind of stuff. Pay them well, because we need better writers, let me tell you. We need kind of writers like C.S. Lewis again. We need writers like J.R.R. Tolkien again. We need writers like George MacDonald. You know, these are, yeah, sure, this is a long time ago, but it's not like there aren't good writers around now. There's even some good, young adult literature. There's good comic writing. We just read George St. George? That was really cool writing. It's not like this doesn't exist,
Yeah.
right? We just need people who are gravitating to these kinds of writers and going, oh, that would be different from Hollywood, wouldn't it? Because it would actually have morals and values in it, right? We need people to be reminded, first of all, that there's a war going on between light and darkness, good and evil in the world. That's a really important reminder, right? And it needs to happen in our entertainment. Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
And so when people talk about these projects, I love it that they're doing these projects. I love it that Daily Wire did stuff. I love it that supposedly Jeremy Boring is working on this stuff. I don't know if he is. I love that Angel Studios is supporting films that amplify light, right? And they actually are trying to do that. Why? Right? Because they're not making the decisions. They're asking for regular people, the guild, to make that decision. But what are we seeing mostly? We're seeing these projects that are springing up that don't solve the real problem, right? And actually, the Daily Wire is a little bit guilty of this. I don't know if anybody has noticed. Most of the Daily Wire's entertainment films have like girl bosses who take over, right? And this is not what we need more of. This is stuff, that's stuff Hollywood's been making a ton for years. So we need something different from that, right? I guess Lady Ballers was not was was a more recent creation, right? But that gives you an example. Since the last few years, people are seeing more and more the need. And you can almost tell the scripts that are written more recently, they are addressing these problems more head on, where the scripts that were written maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years ago still have the girl bosses and stuff like that. And so we're starting to see the damage that feminism and these other ideologies are having on society. And thank goodness some people are starting to see it more now. But we need more, based scripts, stories, things that really value men as well, not just women. And the good people too, not just the bad guy. And we don't just need anti-heroes anymore, you know, with ambiguous good versus evil happening all the time, you know. Guess what? If you don't know if they're good or evil, they're not good. Being good is not all that ambiguous, okay? It's actually not that ambiguous. Um, Gee, I'm not sure if he's an abusive dad or not. Huh. That's not a good sign, friend. I'm not sure if he's abusive to his wife. You think about it. That's not, see, this is like an anti-hero. You don't need that. We don't need that kind of ambiguity. No. We need actually like St. George's killing dragons. We need Dirty Harry's saying you feel lucky, punk. Like we need these kind of heroes, right? Sometimes invoking God, right, as the source of light, because he is. So this is what we need more of. The meaning behind it, not just the building. And it's so funny. It's almost terrifying sometimes. Zachary Levi will probably raise millions of dollars, and their first film might be just like Hollywood. After all of that struggling, all of that work, all of the good hopes and wishes, well wishes, and the good, nice, oh, I got organic farming on the studio. We've put millions of dollars into this. Same kind of writing, same kind of product from Hollywood. Nothing has been solved.
Well, hopefully that's not what happens.
Amen. But see, I mean, this is why I talk about this stuff, because I want people to know. I want Zachary Levi to know. I'm sure he probably never watched this, but I want people like him to know that there is one problem and it needs to be solved. There's a single problem with Hollywood. It's bad storytelling without values in it, without good values. That's the problem. Focusing on that problem. I don't care if you make this film in LA with Hollywood. It doesn't matter. I don't care if you make this film with Mormons from Angel Studios. I don't care if you make this film with anybody. It could be made anywhere by anyone. If it's a good storytelling with good values, that's what we need now.
Yeah.
And that's going to fight Hollywood, right? Of course, some people will say, well, what's good values? We can have a whole discussion on that, but Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, forever, and he will change your life for the better. Yes, Christianity. But that's because we have a foundation for moral values, right? It's not just because we're Christians. It's because our foundation for moral values gives us the strength of lawfulness. What is good laws? What is unjust? What is just? What's a good, loving way to treat people? Golden rule behavior in society. Don't treat people the way you don't want to be treated. It's such a fundamental rule of society, but then we don't do it. Quite often, it's that simple. And as it comes to lawbreakers, lawbreakers often want to be caught. You know, they want that strong male dad figure to come and school them. Be like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. Oh, you're probably right, boss. It's because they didn't have a dad.
Mm.
You know, they need law and order in their lives. They don't have it in their lives. They need a little bit of law and order to tell them what's right, what's wrong. Have you ever witnessed a police officer talking to a criminal, them having a conversation? It's like a father-son relationship.
Hmm.
It's kind of profound. And that police officer is a father to many criminals, telling them shouldn't have done that. You should know better. They're like, yeah, probably right.
Hmm.
Right? And the more they get that relationship, the more they can just put a little bit more order in their lives, a little bit more understanding in their mind
Yeah.
of how you can't just treat other people so badly. Right? But this is all about law and order. It's all about building a good society with love and respect for other people. That's a Christian value. So, I mean, there's a reason that, Moses leaving Egypt was such an important, valuable story because he's escaping slavery and that whole story repudiates slavery. And then God spends the next few years teaching them about how you should treat people through his law. You shouldn't mistreat slaves. You shouldn't mistreat women. You shouldn't mistreat these people. You shouldn't mistreat those people. And then people are going to call Christians and Jewish people terrible when all the stuff we live by is this kind of stuff. It just doesn't make sense. The truth is right there in the pudding. Read the Bible. That's the truth. So we've got like a lot of weakness in our solutions to solve these problems when we're not just focusing in on what really matters. So these are the solutions. If you're gonna make films, make films. That's what you're here for. If you're gonna make stories, make stories. Make good stories. Don't make bad ones. Don't make Hollywood films. What's the difference? Start breaking it down. What is the difference? We're gonna have to do that at some point. Start breaking down films to reveal to people why so many films from Hollywood are terrible and bad for you.
Well, I hope he gets funding and that he makes amazing films out of his community.
Amen. I do too, because there is still hope, right? Of course, I haven't lost hope in Zach Levi. He's a Christian after all. He believes that God has given him a mission. And so if that's what he says, I have no reason to not believe him.
Yeah.
I just would focus on the storytelling a little bit more. And
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a better thing to form community around too. You form community around stories, in my view, not so much about just places and a nice deal on some property and it'll be nice to have a studio. And those are nice thoughts, but like really it's about stories. And if you can believe in that, that's a good thing, as we know. So that's how the culture crumbles, folks. All right. So I will let you know about Rebecca. She is at Substack. I believe at Jesus Loves Rebecca. I think she got kicked off, but I think she is on Substack. I'll show you where you can find me. You can find me on MediaMoses.com, my writing on MediaMoses.com. My Substack is MediaMoses.substack.com. And you can also find TrithiaFilm.substack.com and Creator Coffee Bar as well at Substack. And I'm also on X at Jon Croft and at the Media Moses on X. So enjoy, and we will see you guys next week. Enjoy your weekend, guys.